What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, transmitting from the future free state of Greater Idaho. I am the one-armed madman, and with me today we've got a newcomer, Mr. Reza Rajebi. How we doing? Did I get it right? I just practiced before we
Right,
got on.
right. It was really good. Thank you.
Excellent, no problem, man. So how we doing? It's nice to meet you. Why don't you
Great.
tell us a little bit about yourself? You're a sci-fi writer, which is right up my alley. Actually, the last podcast I did was with another sci-fi thriller style writer, so we're
That's
really knocking
awesome.
them out this month.
That's awesome. Great. So as you said, my name is Reza Rajebi. I am a physician. My day job is being a doctor, and I do what's called interventional radiology, which is kind of a sci-fi, if you think about it. I do what's called minimally invasive image guided procedures. I
Oh,
do I do small surgeries without cutting people open, which is very futuristic. If you think about it, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years ago, um, if you talk to someone about these procedures, they will be like, wow, I don't know, that's kind of a sci-fi thing.
yeah.
So my life is, my profession is kind of living that futuristic life. And at the same time, I do a lot of reading. I watch movies. I love sci-fi, and I always enjoy like my growing up, my biggest read was sci-fi, Joel Byrne. So that's what I used to, that's what I grew up on. So here we are. I decided to sit down. I had some ideas. I decided to sit down and write it. And I actually came up with two different books back to back. One of them is actually a political thriller. And it's interesting because I was listening to your podcast and I saw that you talked about Iran and Israel. And the other one is so the first book is about the Iranian nuclear program.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yes, it's very timely.
Yeah.
So it's a political thriller.
That's crazy
It's
because
it's
the
sort
last
of
guy
like,
that I just had on wrote like a political thriller sci-fi type thing, and same thing,
that's
he had the Iranian and Israel thing in his book, and it
that's
just
amazing.
just published like a couple of weeks ago. That's
Oh,
crazy. Two
man,
two in a row. We got it. Nailed it. Good for
deja
you.
vu. I'm like, "Okay, I gotta go read this thing." So so, so that one book came out in May, and, talks about this doctor who, kinda has a normal life. He's an Iranian American doctor who lives in the United States and has a normal life, kinda, like, boring, you're 8 to God knows when they let you go from hospital type of life, and, he basically, there are things happening, and he gets dragged into this CIA mission to go back to Iran and retrieve some data from this one guy who's an agent, who is a CIA agent to prevent the war that just happened.
Kind of like
So
a Tom Clancy type of thing.
yes, yes. So I basically took like a normal. So I used to be a superhero fan. I don't know if you like
Not
superheroes or
really.
not. Yeah, at some point of my life, it's crazy. I don't even know. I cannot pinpoint when it happened. I don't enjoy them anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because of age, just I don't know what happened. But at some point, I just stopped enjoying heroes, and now I am more in type of like a normal person
Yeah.
who gets dragged, and most of the time it's actually against, like they don't really want to do it because they live a different life. They are actually comfortable. They built this life. It's not great. They're part of the system. They're just doing their thing, and life is just going like around the clock. And somehow they get dragged into this situation, and that's obviously. I mean, you talk to authors. That's kind of like the formula, right?
Yeah.
You have like a normal life, and something happens, and then you change and you go to the second part of your book, and then there's trial and failure. So
Yeah. So
so basically, right now I'm enjoying that stuff. So I wrote this book. This book I started when there was the last movement in Iran. They had this movement. I don't know if you know about it. It's called Woman Life Freedom Movement.
no, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, so it was about 3 years ago. There was a girl in Iran that was arrested by the morality police in Iran, and they killed her somehow. We don't know exactly what happened. There's some videos that shows that people are beating her up. She probably had a head trauma, had probably had a major head bleeding, brain bleed, and then she died. Very young girl,
Sad.
and it was only because she didn't cover her part of her
Ugh.
hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that. And so this created an uprising 3 years ago. And as usual, the Iranian regime, if you follow, you would know, the Iranian regime is like they have learned their lessons. They just crack down so brutally. They actually killed, the numbers are around 1,500 people. They killed them in the streets, and they intentionally shot girls in the eye. So right now there are, I don't know the exact numbers. They're online on social media. You can follow them, but they're like these girls that and there's a couple of guys too. They are actually one eye blind
Oh wow.
because they directly shot them in the eye with pellet guns.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
Ugh.
it's crazy.
I don't
So
know a
when this
ton about
happened,
Iran, but, like, I do know that they're on a verge of, like, a revolution just by the age of the empire. Like, I know the ruling class is kinda dying off, and they have a very young population. So I can imagine there's a lot of tension between, like, the older population trying to hold on to power and the younger population trying to change the country in
right.
a way that they would like it to go.
Right, right. It's very interesting. Like nobody knows exactly what's the we know that 80% of the people, 80 to 85% of the people don't want the government. So that's the difference between Russia and
Yeah.
Iran. In Russia, it's I would say it's about 50-50. So, but Iran, they're holding to this power by that 15 percentage militia plus like these what should I call them? Like this brainwashed people
Yeah.
with religion, and they train them, they spend the money, the same money they spend to create all these proxy wars, proxy armies in
Yeah.
the region. They spend that inside as well in order to feed these people. So they have a very brutal army, a very cruel uh, group of people who would do anything, who
Sounds
would
kinda like
literally,
the Cultural Revolution in China where they had these brainwashed young children that were dragging college professors
right,
out into the streets,
right,
like in The Three Body Problem. I don't know if you read that book or
correct.
watched
Yes,
those
yes,
shows, but,
yeah,
like,
that's
yeah,
absolutely
they
correct.
were brutal, brutal, and
Yeah,
these
yeah,
brainwashed children just they were so brainwashed that when the communist regime finally did take over and wrestled power, they were the first ones that got sent to the camps, and they were happy to go there because they were
right, right.
so gone that they
Yeah.
felt like, "Yep, we need to be here. This is where we're supposed to be."
Is Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like what it takes to get there, it's horrific, but it can happen. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever talk on this show, if you guys ever talk about Milgram experience.
Yes, I'm very familiar with
Okay.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it turns out the environment has this huge uh influence on people. There is good and bad inside all of us. Like yin yang is always
Yeah.
happening. We're constantly there. There are very few people who are completely bright or dark, right? There we have them. There are examples in history. We have those people, but they're very few. Most people, there is a constant war between this, the white and dark forces, whatever you want to call them, and but it turns out the environment, the education, the type of things that they put in your brain, it has a huge influence. And these are normal kids that maybe I grew up with them. We probably went to elementary school when I was in Iran. We probably went to elementary school together. But the difference is, most likely, my dad was like, hey, I want you to read these books. I want you to understand what you're getting into, and you decide what you're gonna do. Like you have the freedom of thought. You can sit down and think, and you can ask questions, but then you have these other group of people that you create these different, like these figures, these crazy figures that you cannot question them. They're these figures of authority that you cannot question them, and then you create these networks, like these messages that they're coming from these figures, and you cannot question it.
Yeah.
This is how you do it. So this is like the biggest challenge right now. I mean, one of the biggest challenges after, especially after September 11th, the world is dealing with. The free world is dealing with is one of the biggest challenges, because they never had this kind of thing. Like we had brainwashed people, like you said. There is Germany, for an example. Like they created this brainwashed people by creating this, like fake identity, like a national
Yeah.
identity, because Germany wasn't even a country, right? For it was not. There were people who spoke German, but Germany was kind of a new thing.
Yeah.
So they created this fake identity, like national identity, and people brainwashed based on that. Or
Yeah.
like China, like you said, that's how they created. But there is also this new type of brainwash zombies. Let's call them zombies, right? We're like, we're in this um, kind of like um, media thing. So let's call them these kind of zombies that they go around. So this is like a new generation of zombies that are created, and I don't think anyone knows how to deal with it.
No, I think you're right. And I think it's really interesting that you brought up the superhero thing because I can't stand superheroes for a lot of reasons. Like,
Yeah,
first off, it's lazy writing. Like you're not really thinking about how to solve a problem. You're
yeah,
inserting this figure that can do things that normal people can't, like, can do, but not easily, right? Like
correct,
Superman can
correct.
solve a problem easily, but a normal person can solve that same problem. They just have to work at it and work hard. And like even with Nazi Germany, they were bringing what the superhero mentality, the white,
Yeah,
blue-eyed, blonde-haired male, like that's the superhero. And I think a big problem with like this superhero culture that we have is that people are waiting for somebody to come in and save them instead of actually like putting in the work, thinking about the problem and figuring it out themselves. Like my
uh,
favorite writer is Larry Niven. And like
okay,
Larry Niven is so good. He brings normal people into every story that he's in. Sometimes they're reluctant to do the mission, sometimes it's just the mission that they're doing, but these are highly resourceful, highly smart, and very capable people that solve problems that normal people should be able to solve. And like in his
yeah.
books, the government comes in from time to time, but they always just screw everything up. Like you've got the single explorer guy who's great at solving
Isn't that
problems and
always
is
the
figuring
case?
this thing out. And then here comes the government. We're gonna steal this, ring world. Like he's figuring out the ring world. He's dealing with a super hero type alien that runs this thing, but he's figuring out, okay, where is this thing controlled from? How is it being controlled? How can I help fix this broken down, superstructure that is, great. And then here
Yeah.
comes the government and go, "Oh, we're just gonna take that for ourselves. We wanna keep it." And it's like, "No, that's not how things work, right?" Like, you have to solve problems. You can't just take things. And
Right,
yeah,
right, right.
like, I really can't stand the superhero mentality, you know? Dune,
Yeah, it's
I
very
don't
interesting.
watch TV anymore aside from sci-fi.
Me
Like,
neither.
I watch
Yeah.
sci-fi when I feel like it's gonna be good. Like, I thought the new
Right, right.
Dune movies were great, and, like, Dune is the same thing. He's not a superhero. Like, he's a
No.
smart kid who has learned from the day he was born how to be a highly capable, highly, smart engineering type of person where he goes in and he's not using weapons and
Right.
warfare to take over this planet. He's using his mind.
Right, 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 right. That's very cool. I love that. I love that. I actually enjoy Dune very much.
Mhm.
I was actually so Dune is like, I don't know, it's like 50, 60 years old
Yeah.
book, right? So it's actually interesting. Like when Dune came out, the movie came out, I was like expecting some sort of backlash from the like Shia Muslim groups
Yeah.
because that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Mahdi is the last imam of Shias that is supposedly he's going to come one day and save the world. So I don't know. Like I really need to go back. Like when I have some time, I need to go back and figure out how he came up with this idea of
Yeah.
Mahdi and how did he put it together. It's just crazy. I
And
I have
the
heard
books
that
are
he
just
spent a lot.
incredible. Like, I was
Right,
expecting because the 1980s version of Dune was uh, it was okay. It was really campy and kinda dumb, and I
yeah,
didn't expect it to be a, like, deep philosophical book where there's not a
right,
lot of action in these books.
right,
Like, there
right,
it's a lot of conversation, a lot of thinking and
right,
figuring things out, and, like, he was very smart, and a lot of the things that he came up with, like, you read a page and you just stop and think for a few minutes like, "Oh, how does that apply to the world today? What is he actually trying to say?" And I don't know a ton about the Muslim religion or any of the things you're talking about, but I do know what you are talking about. I'm just not
right.
really familiar with the nuts and bolts of it, but I thought that it was probably one of the best movies from a book that I have ever seen.
It's so good.
It was true to the book. I thought when they were gonna make it, I was like, "Man, they need to do a series because this is a 500-page book, and there's
Yeah,
freaking 30 of them,
it's amazing.
by other authors and everything." And I'm I'm kind of under I remember when the last Avatar movie came out, my little brother wanted to go see it, so I took him to see
Uh-huh.
it, and I watched it, and I go, "This movie sucked." Like, it was stupid. Like, the entire movie was, like, 4 hours, and the change
Yeah.
event happened in
Wow.
the last scene. It was just a remake of the other one in a lot of ways, and I looked at it and I go, "This is gonna be peak CGI that we see
Right,
for a
right,
long time." And a lot of, like when I was growing up, the line about movies was, "Technology's getting better, things are getting cheaper, it's gonna be easier to make these movies and cheaper to make these movies," but they're not getting any cheaper for some
right.
reason. They're
No,
they're shooting themselves in the foot with all the rules that they have to follow and all this bullshit.
right.
And, people aren't going to the movie theaters anymore. So it's
No.
gonna be really hard to make a $2 billion movie and get your money's worth out of it. And, like, I know that they're not making a ton of money on streaming. So I was glad that Dune and Dune 2 did well because I
Yes.
want to see them continue the story because there's so much
Yeah.
more to it.
Yeah, it's so good. So let me ask you this, like, a lot of people say, like, we're just like the stories we have already told any stories that's out there. A lot of them, it's just repeating the same story. You just take the characters, you change their color, skin, or you
Yeah.
put them in another planet, but it's the same damn story.
Yeah.
So so what do you think about that?
I think that movie makers are lazy. I'm
Yeah.
not a huge fan of movies or TV anymore because I think a lot of it is lazy. I think a lot of it is recycled old material, like you're saying.
Right.
But the books that I read are fantastic. Like
Right.
Alistair Reynolds, I don't know if you've ever read any of his books. He wrote
No.
a series called Revelation Space, and it's so far from anything we've ever seen on TV or in a movie, and he's got a very expensive imagination, so it's gonna be hard to
Right.
turn his books into movies.
Right.
And kind of the same thing with like the three body problem. Like that
Yes.
was a modern day alien invasion story, but the guy did different things with it that
Mhm.
we've never seen before.
Right.
Unfolding a photon and turning it into an artificial intelligence and
Right.
shooting it into our Large Hadron Collider so we can't learn about higher level physics. Like, to me, that was next level thinking that I
Yeah.
was not expecting out of the book. And the way that he was weaving in the Cultural Revolution and why this woman would choose to kind of give up her planet because when she received the first message, a second message came through and said, "Don't return this message. If you return, they're going to find out where you live and we're going to come and destroy your planet." And she was like, "Yeah, I
Right.
want some of that. Come and get
Right.
us." And
Right.
like you think like, "Wow, why would anybody ever do something like that?" But the way that he weaves it through the Cultural Revolution and she's watching her father getting killed in public by these ridiculously like crazy brainwashed teenagers that were used as thugs for the state
Yeah.
essentially. You kind of
Yeah.
go, "Oh, I could see why she would do something like that."
Exactly.
And then the same
Exactly.
thing with some of the collaborators and the way that like in the books in the series we haven't gotten far enough yet to really see how much of a deep thinker this guy is. I actually thought the Chinese version of the show was better. It was like
Mm.
30 episodes compared to 8, and you really
Ah,
get to see, like, all of it, and
yeah.
one of my favorite scenes I think they did it in the American version, but I don't remember, but, like, they got a message saying, "You are bugs," which is kind of like
Yes.
something that we feel like people say this all the time, like, "Oh, people wouldn't be interested in our planet," like, but we are interested in bugs. Why would they
Right.
not be interested in bugs that can think and build technology and everything? And then, all these scientists are freaking out, "Oh, they're gonna crush us like bugs." And then the cop takes them out to the swamp and goes, "Look at all these bugs. We've been trying to kill these things off for as
Can't do
long
it.
as we've been
Yeah.
alive. Bugs have killed more people in human history than anything else on this
That's
planet.
true.
Everything combined has not killed as many people as mosquitoes."
That's
And
true.
I thought that was very smart and
Yeah.
something that we don't see. Like, I have a big problem in a lot of modern sci-fi where they go to this, paradise planet. "Oh, this planet is incredible."
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
they treat humanity like a disease, like that we're a disease that is destroying this planet, and
Right.
they don't take into account that we live on the paradise planet. We've looked at
Right.
so many planets so far with our
Yeah, we
telescopes.
can't find
We
one.
can't find
Yeah.
anything that's anywhere near
Yeah.
this,
They
you
found
know?
one. I
Yeah,
think yeah, there was like the other day I
I
heard they
saw that.
found one that possibly
Might have.
could be like this,
But
but it's
it's an
crazy.
ocean world, like, the one
Yeah.
if the one I'm thinking of is an ocean world and they found something that might be bacteria or sea life because
Right,
of
right,
the
right.
emissions that they're putting out, but, like, that's not us, like,
Yeah.
one of my favorite shows, sci-fi shows, is Battlestar Galactica, not the old one, the
Okay.
newer one,
Yeah.
and at the end of the show, they finally make it to Earth, and they land, and they're flying over Africa, and they're looking at all of these herds of animals. And this is a modern picture, you're seeing all these
Yes.
giraffes and elephants and lions and all of these animals. And Edward James Olmos has a great line. He goes, "This planet, it has more life on it than all 9 of our planets combined." And
Right.
I thought, like, yes, that's right. Like, this is the paradise planet. Like, we
Right.
live on it right now. And people just don't appreciate that for some reason. They think
They
that there's
don't.
something the grass is always greener somewhere else. But as of now, we haven't found grass anywhere. So it's
There
definitely
is
not
no
greener.
grass. Yes. Yes, there is no grass. That's very interesting. Like I love this talk because that takes us to my sci-fi. So so here's the thing. Like I'm gonna tell you like how I did this, and you tell me how what you like and what you don't like. So first thing was I look at all these shows, like remember like the person who did all this stuff, it was Steve Jobs. Like
Yes.
he would go like in front of like in this big arena, whatever it is, and go in front of all these people. And he's like, I got iPhone now, Elon Musk is doing it. I don't know if what's his name, Bill Gates tried or not. He probably didn't. Nobody would even he's very charismatic. So,
Yeah.
anyways, so so basically, uh my that whole thing is such an interesting show. Like you go out there and announce a big change, a big, the big breakthrough. So, and then I always had I mean, who doesn't, right? Everybody thinks about afterlife. Do we have a soul, right? So how could you answer that? I would say, and this is how the book starts. What if, what if, let's say, you can download a human's brain onto a computer, okay? And then artificially create all the senses, right? So if that computer has the visual input, they can see. If they can hear, if they can touch, if they have the haptic sense, they can feel, right? So if that works, if you download a human into a computer and give them the stimuli as if they are a living object, this is going to, like Neuralink,
Yeah.
right? You're having a computer brain interface. So does that mean we don't have a soul? Does that mean that this is what we are? It's all just the brain full of information. The consciousness, what is consciousness?
Yeah.
So that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
So that's how this book starts. We are 50 years from now, and there is this tech mogul, this big tech guy. Just think about whoever's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we have a few of them. So who comes up with this idea of downloading people, and then you can buy your tier.
Yeah. Oh,
You
okay.
can have like, if you're super rich, you have platinum. You can have like, the senses are like multiplied. If you're enjoying your ice cream, it's like 10 times better in this world. It's called Cerebrex.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's called, so you have this, and in this world, you're basically promised immortality because you don't have to die anymore. You just on a hard drive
Yeah.
on a server. You don't have to die. They would just copy you and you keep going. You don't have to die unless you want to die, because they cannot keep you. That's against, your will, right? They cannot keep you. If you say, hey, I want to delete myself,
Mhm.
my program, I want to delete myself from Cerebrix. I had enough. I'm done. So here comes the main
Yeah.
character, who is a neurosurgeon. He was a neurosurgeon in real life, and he had a car accident, and he was quadriplegic. He became quadriplegic after car accident. And despite the fact that he didn't want it to go on Cerebrex, he went on Cerebrex because he had no life. He just, his life was shattered.
Yeah.
So he decided to go on Cerebrex to basically, have this experience of living in, in a digital utopia. And he's a first generation upload. He was like the first experimental.
Yeah.
So he got uploaded for free with a bunch of guys, and their brain. So for the first generation, they had to cut their brains in order to upload them. So they don't have a real body. Their body is gone, so they can never go back. And one by one, the first generation uploads start dying.
Oh, interesting. I like it. So I kind of think that the soul and consciousness are one and the same. Whatever it
Okay.
is kind of this abstract thing that we don't understand. I like to believe that there's a well of consciousness somewhere. M theory is this branch of string theory that says that we live in these membranes that are these universes and that there's
Uh-huh.
something else out there called the bulk. and maybe that is where consciousness starts and leaks into our I don't know. That's kind of my sci-fi way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that until we can quantify consciousness, and I don't know that we'll ever be able to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
maybe we'll get smart enough to do it. Maybe we won't. Who really knows? There could be some quantum aspect to it. So I think that right now and in the near future, there's not going to be a machine that's going to be able to suck your consciousness out of your body.
Right.
But I do think that, let's say you start with a Neuralink and you learn how to use computers and you can communicate and you can kind of surf cyberspace in a way. Not so
Right.
much live in it, but kind of you know, interact with it in a different
Interact.
way.
Yeah.
I think that we could probably, maybe with like like nanotechnology, slowly replace every neuron in your brain with some
Right.
sort of mechanical technology. And right before you die, you swap out that last couple of neurons and you're there. And I
Right.
think that that is possible. I don't know that we'll ever get there. I don't know that
Right.
anybody will ever want to get there. However, I do think that within the near future, we're going to be able to create a very good facsimile of a person on a computer. Whether or not that is you or not is a philosophical question, not a
Correct.
technological question, right? And then what happens if once you're on that hard drive, can you copy it and paste it to another hard drive? Is there a
Perfect.
way to have two of you in the same space? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Love
There's a
that.
great book series called We Are Legion, We Are Bob, where
Yeah.
Bob is a programmer and he gets in a car accident and he had already paid to have his brain cryogenically frozen.
Okay.
And years, maybe a century later, he wakes up in a computer and he's talking to this scientist that goes, "We live in the world has changed a lot since you were
Right.
alive. We
Right.
live in this authoritarian Christian nationalistic nation where you are not allowed to be alive. But what you can do is be programmed into a garbage truck, and you can be a garbage truck for the rest of your life. But I'm not part of this, government agency. I'm kind of a rogue scientist, and I was able to steal you. And I'm going to put
Mm.
you into a what do they call it? It's like a spacecraft that goes to different star systems and creates another version of
Okay.
itself and another version and another version. I can't remember it off the top of my head. So
Interesting.
he gets sent out and they say, "Hey, find us new places to live." And so
Right.
he starts experimenting and he starts
Right.
doing a lot of the things that you're talking about, where how can I change my senses to see things that we aren't capable of seeing? How can I look at
Right.
gamma rays? How can
Right.
I discover what dark matter and dark energy are? Like without this human body that's kind of limiting me, we can change the way we perceive time. So I can slow down the way I think. So while I'm traveling at 10% light speed to Alpha Centauri, over thousands of years, it's only going to feel like a couple of years, and within
Right.
those couple of years I can get more work done than any human
Any.
could ever possibly do. And then he starts experimenting with creating another version of himself, and
That's
each
amazing.
version comes out a little bit different. And as they keep that, then that one creates a new one, and that one's a little bit different, and
Right.
pretty
Right. Right.
soon there's millions of these guys and none of them are the same. And
Right.
in the book, they can't really figure out why that is. And
Right.
again, like that's not so much of a technological question as a philosophical question.
Correct.
Can there be am I unique? Is there something about me that's unquantifiable that we could just never scientifically figure out? I would like to think so. I think that there are rules in this universe that we're never going to be able to figure out
Right.
or break, no matter how old we get, no matter how smart we get, no matter how smart we can make an artificial intelligence. Like, I'm not
Right.
one of these guys who thinks like, "Oh, we're just going to create AGI in the next 10 years and then we're going to discover everything that we can't figure out at this point because it's going to be so much smarter than us." Like,
Yeah. I don't know about that.
I'd like to think that we were created by something.
Hmm.
Maybe not the the way that religion looks at God, maybe not the way that science looks at like a Boltzmann brain, or a
Mhm.
Matryoshka brain or simulation theory. I
Right.
think that there's a collision of science and religion and spirituality that people aren't ready to figure out. And maybe we'll never be able to figure it out. And maybe it's a cross between all of them. And I don't know. I think it's a very interesting topic to study because like you said, there's going to be tiers to these things. There's
Right.
tiers on the internet already. How
Correct.
much which version of chat GPT do you want to use? Do you want to pay for the higher version or do you want to
Yeah.
use the one that the schlebs, the lower level people, the little
Right.
people get to use? So I totally believe that within the near future, things like what you're talking about are going to exist. And I
Right.
think people my age and people your age are probably going to start freezing their brains more
Right.
because it may not happen as quick as Ray Kurzweil thinks. I think his timeline's probably off.
Right.
A lot of these guys' timeline tends to be like right before they die, and
Yeah,
I
exactly.
but I do think that this is going to be a viable option for people. And my grandmother just died a
Oh,
couple of months
sorry.
ago. It's hard and
It's
it's
very
part of
hard, yeah.
life. But at this point, if you could scan her brain and
Yeah.
upload videos and have her take a cognitive test and answer questions and you could create a decent facsimile.
Yeah.
My mother is in so much pain over this that I think she would like to talk to that, whatever it is?
Yeah, I just saw a movie or something like that. That's crazy. That's like you would just what you're describing, it's just like I think I watched a movie. It was like this, lady whose husband died, and her her friend is like, "There is this app. You need to download this app." And
Yeah,
she's like, "No, I'm not. I want her. I want him. I don't want this fake version."
yeah,
And finally she gives up and she downloads the app and puts the whatever, the videos and the pictures and the voice and all that stuff, and he calls her. And after a while, they're in love.
yeah.
And then there's this company creates a like a silicon version of the husband. He's like, "Do
An
you want to
android.
see me?" Creates a silicon version and sends it to her. And they start living together. And she's like hiding him from the friends and all
Yeah,
that crazy stuff. But that's crazy. But I agree with you. This is crazy. But the good news that you brought like the a good question of like, is there God or is there religion? Is by the way, this is a great quote. It's not mine. I wish it was mine, but somebody said, "Do you know what's the difference between a religion and a cult?"
no.
So, in a cult, there's always one person who knows this is bullshit. In a religion, that person is dead.
Yeah. There's also another one where it's like religion asks you to believe in a lot of miracles, where science only asks you to believe in one, the Big Bang.
Right,
Which
right,
I love
right,
I
right.
love that
Yeah, I
because,
love that. Yeah, I love that.
the Big Bang is, you know, God
We
created
don't
the
know.
earth
We
on the
don't know what
7th day.
happened.
It's like,
Exactly.
there's not
Yeah,
much we're talking apples and oranges here in a
yeah,
lot of ways. Like, they
yeah.
can't explain it. We can kind of study it in a lot of ways. We don't even know if like, I'm very interested in black hole cosmology, which kind of
Okay.
says that we were created from a black hole. So, like, on one end of a black hole, you have everything goes in. On the other end, you have a white hole where everything comes out
Comes
in a
out.
singularity, a boom, a big bang.
Right, right.
And if that's true, shit, we've got billions and billions of black holes that we know are in this universe. And if every single one of those is creating another big bang, I mean, there could
Yeah,
just be
there's like
endless,
universe.
endless, endless universes for us to explore. Are there other people there? Is it a different version of what we're living right now, only
Correct.
a little bit
Correct.
different? Like, the possibilities are just endless.
Endless. So what I don't understand is maybe you can tell me. So this is like a simple, maybe simple, I don't know. So if you go inside a black hole, right? You're not coming out, right? But what happens to you?
Yeah.
Are you get you like do you get disintegrated into atoms or you gone as a whole?
Hey, that kinda could depend on consciousness, right? Like,
Right.
we don't know what consciousness is. Could it survive going through a black hole?
Correct.
Who really knows? I have heard that, let's say you've got a black hole that's connected to another black hole, and in between those is a wormhole. You
Mhm.
would the kind of standard line on wormholes is it'll allow you to go across the universe
Correct.
faster than the speed of light. You exit here, fold the paper, poke a hole in it. But there is also a thought that once you go inside of a black hole, time and space flip,
Mhm.
and you're no longer traveling at speed, you're traveling at time. And you may just be stuck in the middle of this thing for all of
Right.
eternity.
Right.
And we don't know, you know. I remember when I was in middle school and stuff, like, black holes still didn't exist. Like, we hadn't
Right, right,
found
right,
one yet, you know what I mean? And
right.
there was all kinds of stuff in cosmology that is just completely different today than
Yeah,
when me and you were younger kids and learning about
yeah.
these types of things. So, like, I think that we are very ignorant, and we look at things that we think should be possible rather than looking open-minded, like, what else is there? Like, if
Right.
you talk to Neil deGrasse Tyson and you bring up any of this type of stuff, he's gonna tell, "Oh, no, no, here's why you're
No,
wrong."
exactly.
You know? But
Just
dude,
yeah,
you've been wrong a lot too, and
a lot.
he'll tell you, "Oh, well, this is why we were wrong, and now we know why we're not," and it's like, you don't have an open mind. You
No.
have you've been trained in a lot of ways, like we were talking earlier about this cultural revolution where these people are brainwashed to serve the state. I think a lot of scientists are brainwashed to serve to science. And they're more religious zealots in a lot of ways than a lot of religious people are.
I
Because
like that.
religious people are open-minded to miracles, to different, ways of thinking,
Right.
to humbling yourself and admitting that there is something greater than you and that you are s- so small. We're so small. We're not insignificant, but we're so small. And
Right,
there's
right.
so much that we don't understand and can never understand, in my
Oh, man,
opinion.
they would just crucify you. I
Exactly.
was I was like I remember one time, and I'm like, I'm the meaning of the word, agnostic. I don't know what the hell is going on in
I'm
this world.
I'm right there with you.
No, I have no clue what's going on. It could be anything tomorrow. Could be like a God comes and he's like, "Oh, I'm here," and I'll be like, "Okay, well," or like we just figure out what happened, like who created this universe, and I'll be like, "Okay, that's great," So I can expect anything, and I'll be very happy. I'm be like, "Okay, that's fine." But I was like I was having like this discussion with a group of like these well-educated atheists, and I told them there is a there is a study, and this is actually a published study in a medical journal. One study, I was just giving an example, like getting back to what you just said, that there is something that we don't know, right? Let's just open our minds and let's say there are things that we don't understand. We don't know. Maybe there's a rule. Maybe we're gonna find the rule in the future, but for now we don't understand it. There is a published study that shows that people who are in the hospital and they were preyed on, like they had like these group of people, they
Mhm.
assigned a patient to them, and they went to church or synagogue or mosque or whatever. They just prayed for them, for that patient, without knowing them. The ones that who got prayed for, they did better. There is
Yeah.
one study. They wanted to kill me. Like, if they could, they would be like, "I can't believe you. Why you're sick?" As if like, God, I'm like, "Guys, you are talking like a fanatic, like
Yeah.
a religious fanatic. Atheism is not a religion. Calm down."
Yeah.
I'm just telling
Yeah.
you, there is a published study in a medical journal, and I'm not for it. I'm sure if I look into that study, I can find maybe 10 major flaws.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying it exists.
Yeah.
We have
And
to
like
deal with it.
atheists will tell you that religion is stupid, and you go, okay, which part of the Bible is stupid? Oh, I've never read it. It's like,
Right,
well,
right,
how do you know it's so stupid if you've never
right,
read the damn
right,
thing, you know?
right.
So
So
like I had my amputation done at the Mayo Clinic. My doctor is buku smart. The guy is
right,
just
amazing,
on another level. He's like growing tendons and muscles and bones and trying to figure out how to regrow limbs so he's doing transplanted limbs for practice because he thinks by the end of his
amazing,
career he's going to be able to grow a hand and put it back on
amazing.
somebody. So he was telling me that at the Mayo Clinic, they get a lot of people who say that they have these outer body experiences right before
Sure.
they're like about to die or they're in a
Yeah,
massive accident or maybe
yeah,
they're just in surgery. So
yeah.
they decided, you know what we're going to do? We're going to in one of these operating rooms, we're going to build a shelf around the top of the roof and we're just going to put a bunch of weird shit up there and see if they see anything. So they thought, you know, oh, they'll never see
No,
it.
but
This
no
these
way,
people
yeah.
are just imagining things. Their brains are moving slower and
Sure.
you know, like all these scientific reasons why this will never
Right,
happen.
right.
So I don't remember if it was him or somebody else, but this person comes out of surgery and goes, I had the weirdest out of body experience. Like I was floating around the room. What the hell is all the weird shit on the ceiling doing up there? And they're just like, whoa, you
Whoa,
saw it? And she's like, yeah, there's a slinky and there's a pot and a pan and just like all
that's
sorts of weird
crazy.
crap up there. And they're like, we can't
Yeah,
explain this. Like,
yeah,
there's just
yeah.
no way. You can't see it from the operating room. It's hidden up there. So something is happening.
Yes.
There's
Yeah,
also there's these studies that have like quantum random number generators.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I don't remember exactly how this works, but they have these things running all the time. And right before big events, these things spike. Like
Wow,
after right before 9/11, boom, big spike.
wow.
People intuitively know when things are going to happen. Maybe
Right,
it's as
right,
small as like you're thinking about somebody and they call you on the phone
right,
right at the
right.
same time. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there is something about us that just we can't
There is,
quantify and
there
nobody
is.
can.
Yeah. Have you listened to this podcast? It's called, Telepathic,
I
Tapes?
have. So
Yeah, the
it's
lady went on, Joe Rogan, so I think she got very popular now.
yeah. So I actually and this is interesting because, like, my mom believes in this stuff. She had, a psychic that she was seeing,
Sure.
that, like, told her all kinds of weird shit that she shouldn't have been able to know. The weirdest thing was, like, she lost her dog like,
Uh-huh.
her ex-boyfriend, like, let the dog out because he didn't like it,
Oh, God.
and she went to the psychic, and the psychic was like, "Oh, your dog's in Fort Bragg." That's 80 miles, 100 miles away
Oh
from where
my
she lived.
god.
Somebody found the dog in the town that she lived in and took it home with her to Fort
That
Bragg,
is
and this
crazy.
woman knew about it. Also, though, I saw recently on Joe Rogan, he had a mentalist on,
Okay.
and
Oh,
this guy
yeah. Yeah.
and he said that the telepathy tapes are bullshit, that he knows what they're doing and how they're doing it, and I don't know. I would be
I don't
interested to
know.
see him
Yeah.
go in and kind of mess around and see if he could do it, but, like, I do believe that there is stuff like that out there,
Yeah.
you know?
There are things that we just don't know. There might, as I said, there might be physical, like qualities of things that we still have to discover,
Yeah,
or they might be metaphysical, which we don't know. But
like
you cannot deny it.
yeah,
You cannot deny it, and that's the biggest problem with well-educated people. And that's what becomes. See, the problem is that creates in anything. If you have a firm belief in something, this is why I have problem with the word belief. If you if you're a believer, that basically clouds your judgment. And then, if you are in a position of power of some sort, you can be abused by people.
Yeah.
So the biggest example of that, I think, one of the things that happened, for example, with COVID and
Yeah.
all this vaccination and all this craziness, you like people are crazy. What are you talking about? We everybody like this guy would show up on TV and he's a firm believer of science, right? He's like, you have to, stay away from each other for 6 feet. You have to put this mask on, and then they do the research and mass doesn't do anything.
And the
So
6 feet thing
basically,
just popped up. Like there was
correct.
no science behind that whatsoever.
Absolutely. So this guy, basically, this is the problem with, like believers, because they come out and they tell you something that they believe in, and then somebody can use that, like for example, a vaccine company can use that and be like, okay, let's just do this. Let's just do this. Yeah, let's make this. Let's not test it properly. Let's just bypass the process. Let's see what we can do. I don't know. I don't know what their idea was, but that's the problem I have with believing.
Yeah.
Believing can be a problem.
I just thought of this like after I went on my rant about like telepathy and crap. Like I've never thought about this before. This is a new idea. If there is some quantum aspect to consciousness, let's say like Roger Penrose thought that there's some
Yes.
quantum thing. What if we are all entangled in some way, quantum
Right.
entanglement,
Right.
where you're connected. And the
Correct.
deeper connection you have with the person, the deeper the entanglement. So that could explain why somebody's going to call you on the phone. That could
Right.
explain why you are so connected to your child with autism even more than a
That you
normal
can
parent
read them.
would because you're doing everything for them.
Yeah.
Your minds might be meshed together in some way
Yeah.
that we can't understand. And like, why not? If
Why not?
that could be science in the
Could be.
future. Like right
Could
now it
be.
could be kind of woo woo, but like why couldn't that be
I
possible?
agree.
If
I agree.
consciousness comes from a well, if it comes from somewhere else, and Andy Weir wrote a great short story about this called The Egg, where consciousness is somewhere else. It's some other being. Maybe it's a Boltzmann brain that kind of just appeared in a universe by itself and was alone
Uh-huh.
and decided it wanted to create this world with all of us to experience what it would be like to connect with other people instead of being alone all the time. Like if if we all come from the same place, why can't we all be connected in some way?
Connected. Yeah. Well, there is actually there's I think there are some people there is actually people think about those connections. Even a lot there are people who believe that everything is connected to each other. So which is an interesting concept. So I don't I can't deny that. That's a very interesting concept. But that question for
That's why I
you though.
like talking to sci-fi guys because
Yeah.
I come up
Yeah.
with great shit. Like I've been working on a
I
sci-fi book for
know.
a
I
long
know.
time, and
So
I come up with some interesting shit when I'm talking about stuff like this. I
so
love this.
do you think we've been visited?
I don't know. It's one of those things where we appear to be alone in the universe. Like one of my
Mhm.
favorite YouTube channels is called Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur, and he has a
Mhm.
theory called the Dyson dilemma, which states that the end goal for every civilization would be creating a Dyson swarm around their star, enclosing their star in solar panels
Correct.
and mirrors and collecting every bit of energy. And if
Correct.
you're capable of doing one, you're probably going to be doing a lot of them. So
Correct.
why aren't we seeing entire portions of galaxies just completely blacked out? Where you look at a galaxy and you go, okay, that's full of stars, but wait a minute, why is there a massive black spot there where we can't see anything? And we don't see that. I don't I'm always torn about faster than light travel. You know, I
Yes.
I feel like there's rules in the universe like we were talking about earlier, and I think time travel might be a rule that we're not allowed to break. I'm not really
Mm.
sure. That being said, I don't know that there's a difference between angels and UFOs. Maybe they come from somewhere else, a different dimension, a different universe. Maybe it's easier to go to a different universe than it is to go to the other side of our universe.
Right.
Maybe we
Right.
can bore a
Right.
hole into the bulk and travel somewhere else far easier than we can to go to the edge of our
Correct.
galaxy. We don't know. So if humans, future humans, or our humans today, if we found another planet with people on it that were maybe primitive, that were not technologically advanced at the point, but they had spirituality, maybe we would appear as an angel. But as people grow, as the way they envision the world changes, and we come up with sci-fi,
Yeah.
maybe they're appearing as UFOs now because that's something that we can understand better than just an angel appearing in front
Yeah.
of us. Like, I don't know. It's it's something I've been torn on for a long time. I don't trust these government agents that come out and say, "Oh, I know everything about UFOs, but I also met with the government and they told me what I can and can't say." And
Correct.
these guys
Correct.
all happen to be like ex DOD and spies, and like I just can't trust those people. I've never seen anything strange. I would love to. Like, I'm open to it. I've talked to people on this show before that say you have to be open to it in order to see
Yeah.
something, you know?
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't know. I think that there has to be something to these sightings. There are people out there that I do trust that have seen things. My
Right.
co-host on the show has seen a UFO before. Was it a government, you know, uh,
Yeah, you can't
machine
tell.
that we don't
Yeah.
understand yet? I don't know. I'm sure you're familiar with Eric Weinstein. He's a very
Yes.
smart
Yes.
mathematician.
Yeah.
He thinks that string theory is bullshit.
Yeah, he
And he
does. Yeah.
thinks that scientists have all been thrust into exploring string theory because there's something else out there that the powers that be don't want us to discover. And to
Sure.
me, that is a very, very logical way to look at it. Because if Lockheed Martin had figured out how to take ET home, like
Correct.
Ben Rich said, they would not want normal people knowing how to do that.
No,
Could you
yeah.
imagine if people like us just decided we want to leave? We want to go somewhere else and not
Yeah.
deal with these people that are terrible, that are shooting people in the eyes for not covering their heads, for, killing college professors in China for not bowing down to communism. If we didn't free thinking people decided we've had enough of that, we want to go somewhere else, they'd say, absolutely not. You are a
Right.
threat that we don't want to deal with, especially
Correct.
if you get out of here and figure out the same technology that we're dealing with. Now
Yeah.
you're really a threat.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
called the interdiction hypothesis.
Mm.
That, like, maybe civilizations don't want to let their people go out and colonize other stars because then they become a threat. And over a long enough period of time, now you're evolving in different ways and you're
Your
just as
ways, yeah.
alien as maybe an actual alien is. So I could see that, I could see faster than light travel being possible and kept from us. I could also see it not being possible because of the rules of the universe. I I don't really know.
Yeah, that's good. So it's funny that you say that you haven't seen anything strange,
Yeah.
but I tell you a couple of strange things.
Yeah.
Like, how did we as humans, we became, yeah, we started walking, on 2 feet.
Yeah.
Like, that's very strange.
Yeah.
Like,
Brains.
biologically, yes, I understand seeing a UFO, whatever they're calling it these days, that might be, that's a very dramatic,
Yeah.
you know, event, but there are strange things. Like like why is the human head is so big
Yeah.
compared to their body? Like, how did this happen? They're biologically, just giving my background, there's certain questions that I can tell you that are very difficult to answer. Like, we don't know what happened. Yeah, people say, "Oh, this happens through the evolution," and people started thinking, their brain got bigger, so that's how, but it just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Like, it's not very straightforward. So there are strange things, like walking on 2 feet, how the shape of the pelvis has changed, why, babies' heads or human heads are so big. This is against biology.
Yeah.
So, like a human baby cannot take care of itself until about 1 year old. That and that's because of their size of their
Yeah.
head. Because if they grow so much in the in the womb, the female cannot deliver it.
Yeah.
So these are all against normal biology.
Yeah.
The way the normal biology, the natural selection works, you should be the most compatible with life. Humans are not the most compatible machine with life. There are strange things about humans that
Yeah.
nobody knows exactly how to explain, and that's what I wonder all
Yeah.
the time.
You know,
Like this is part of the book, and just getting back to Code
yeah.
Extinction. That's what the book is called,
Oh,
by the way.
perfect.
Code Extinction. It's a series, and I called it the War of Ascent. So book one is called Code Extinction. So as I mentioned, so if we just say everything is just natural, there are strange things
Yeah.
in humans that are not explained, and I at least fictionally,
Yeah.
I take it to my book to talk about this, and I feel like this has to do with aliens visiting
It
us.
could be. You know, my guy Isaac Arthur that I watch on YouTube, he said he has a great saying on this. He says intelligence is expensive.
Correct.
And we invest a lot in creating new humans. Not only does it take like a year, like you said, for them to even be able to hold their head up, it takes another 14 or 15 before they could actually fend for themselves. You know,
Correct.
Peter Watts wrote a great book called Blind Sight about this. He's an evolutionary biologist,
Hmm.
and every part of the book actually like checks out biologically. He creates like vampires and anyways, they find this alien race that evolved away from consciousness. They viewed
Yeah.
consciousness as a fluke, something that is too expensive, and they called it basic insanity in a lot of
Mm.
ways. And it was a really interesting way to like explore that topic. Um Man, Reza, I could talk to you all freaking night, but I have another
I know, man.
podcast starting in
This is
just
so
like
good.
right now. I like I said, I found out about this one late. I forgot to check
No
my
worries,
emails
man.
yesterday, so I do have to
No
cut us
worries.
off here. But I'd love to read your books. Do you have? Is
Please.
there audio versions?
Yes, they're both available. One is called the political thriller is called Dead Man's Pacemaker, and that's under my pen name. Is Diaco Hajir. The other one is called Code Extinction. They're
Code
both
Extinction.
the Code Extinction just came out as an audiobook today. So
Perfect.
they're all both on Audible.
How about this? I'm gonna listen to your book, and then we'll do this again in a couple weeks or a month or so.
Sounds good, man.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Excellent, man.
Whichever way you want to take it, let's take it.
Perfect. Like I said, I could
All
talk
right.
to you all night. That's one of the fastest hours I've done in a long
Awesome. That
time,
was so
which is
cool.
makes it so much fun. All right. Thanks for
All
listening,
right.
everybody.
Thank you.
That's it for the night.
All right.